Hi, I'm Sai and welcome to my video channel called Nugget of Wisdom. Um, this video is really kind of an update to give you a little bit of sort of information on some of the topics I've covered in my videos and a little summary of what I'm trying to do here. So first of all, obviously, I set up the whole channel to try and express my perspective based on lots of research and analysis and my own feelings about and my own passion about trying to have a positive impact, trying to help bring a higher level of truth to some of the big topics that are going on in the world, trying to share perspectives from books and people and spiritual teachers and scientists and biologists and psychologists and all sorts of people that I've come across who are amazing. But also I want to make it relevant to today. I don't want to just sit there and talk. I want to actually be able to try and offer something that people can use to affect or change or influence some of the things that are going on in the world in a positive way. Some of the issues we have, some of the big issues. So, you know, the wars and the conflicts and so on. And also, I have absolutely no desire to be angry or attacking or to use the words evil, you know, despotic, terrorist, to have a narrative which is about me standing on one side of the fence and pointing to the other person and saying, you're the ones that are wrong. Because basically we become them when we become like that. If we really want to, you know, deal with people who we feel are making bad decisions or wrong decisions or doing things that we feel are morally inappropriate from our standpoint, the worst thing you can do is to actually become the very thing you're trying to sort of, you know, object to, trying to change. And so I'm very keen not to do that. I have great respect for everyone, and I know from some incredible teachings from incredibly wise people from all different places that there is one message which I believe has a very strong essence of truth, and that is we are all love at our core. We are all peace at our core. Everyone. It doesn't matter who they are, where they are, when they've lived. And the things they do, most of the time in our attempt to try and connect in some with that love, and with that peace. But unfortunately, because of tradition, culture, stories, through religion, through politics, experiences, traumas, they often become very dark and do very dark things. So it's important for me, really important, that in my videos I don't come across as somebody who's trying to gang up into one tribe and go, it's all them. And you see this on the internet all the time. People are at war with each other for the craziest of things, you know. And of course, what that does is it gets them, you know, more hits, more eyeballs, subscriptions, and that just feeds the ego. You know, you become, or you try to become, the celebrity podcast person who's pointing out all those bad things that are going on in those terrible people and getting all sorts of people looking at you, feeding their own egos. And that's something I'm not interested in. Really, for me, success with this format I'm using, this video stuff, will be that at some stage it has some influence on the collective consciousness of the world and helps me and others to grow and become more passionate and more respectful, and more intelligent about what we're doing, and also understand at our core that we collectively start to realize that we're incredible beings, beautiful beings, and there's a purpose to what's happening here. So really important. And you know, where I veer off that track, let me know in your comments. You know, I'm also ready to be called out mistakes I make, called out on facts I get wrong, called out on my ego. When you see my ego beginning to get in the way, when you see me getting angry and animated, you know I'm probably basically gone down a rabbit hole. I think there's a couple of things that have happened since I did my last videos with relation to kind of wars and the serious conflicts that are happening in the world. And, you know, we all get a sense here that something isn't quite right, that weird stuff's going on in the world at the moment. There's anxiety, there's stress. We had the COVID. We have these strange wars that are occurring. And people, I feel, are just confused. And like I am, confused and concerned and wondering what's going on here. And so how I've addressed that, obviously, is to just go out there and find out about it and look at as much information as I can and then sort of put it together and figure out what is most likely to be, what might be the truth or not. It's also really important for me to say that I love America. I was brought up with a lot of American culture in Ireland. Irish people have a long heritage and respect for the American people. America is a diverse, amazing, fantastic country full of amazing artists, musicians. America has done so much in the world that is quite incredible, beautiful and wonderful. I live in the UK, fantastic country, fantastic people, diverse, multicultural. We have foods from all around the world. It's a beautiful geography, incredible cities, a wonderful place to live. But also all these other countries, Russia. I haven't been to Russia, but my guess is it's an incredible place, and the people who live there are incredible. I've looked at videos of some of the cultures. I think 180 plus different ethnic cultures in Russia, and I could go on and on. I've been to Germany, a fantastic place. France, a beautiful, beautiful country. So for me, I have no axe to grind about any particular tradition, culture, religion. None. I see the beauty. I see the amazingness in everybody and everything. But I also understand there is a dark side. There is a dark side. People are struggling with, what I would perceive to be generations of trauma. Personal trauma in their lives. You only have to go back a short period in this world to see that people have had really difficult times, whether it was famine, starvation, racism, all sorts of wars and just all sorts of difficult things that people have had to deal with, leaving their countries and emigrating, go to start lives in other places. Persecution for their religious ideology or their philosophy. It goes on. And it isn't surprising that today the mind and the intellectual mind is grappling with these things. And in many cases, it grapples something that is not actually appropriate to solve the problem and bring us all to a place where we can live peacefully. But also, we're very tribal. So we're tribal because we lived for tens of thousands of years as tribes. And we were hunter-gatherers, and we had, agriculture and all the sort of requirements and the hard lives that we had to live. Being tribal and being part of tribes is very important. Today, we're becoming just one tribe. So we have to transcend what was probably necessary for us in the past. We have to look at the things we did in the past objectively and say, they don't work now. And, let's not criticize them. They're in the past. It doesn't make any difference whether they were good or bad, evil, not evil, whatever. Look at them and say, did they work for us? Did they bring us to a place where we could be really prosperous and live peacefully and live happy lives? The things that worked, great. But the things that don't work, no, we can't have them anymore. But also, as I say, we're one tribe now. So, the days of sort of looking at the other group and the other island and just saying, well, because they've got, red hair or their skin's a different colour or they're shorter than us or whatever, we need to get rid of them. And we need to take their stuff to survive. Those days are gone. So we shouldn't act like those days are still there. They're gone because also we are supposed to transcend as human beings. We're supposed to have humanity for each other. We're supposed to start to understand, start to respect, start to love the diversity of the human race, start to share through ideas, creativity, culture, respect each other's differences. And as one tribe on this planet, we have to do it. There's nowhere else to go. There's no one else to take out. And if you do take out other people, there are millions of eyes watching. The internet and smartphones and education are making it so easy for us all to watch, to be, in many ways, to be the judges of others. And so you look at the conflicts that are going on in the world. You can't get away with things. You can't do things that are dark and think that no one's going to notice. And of course, when they notice, your problem is that the sort of your reputation is being destroyed. And from a tribal point of view, when that sort of thing happens, you get cast out of the group. So it's really important to understand things have changed so much. Education, technology is allowing us to basically elevate, move up, grow, flower, to be what we truly are. War was fine in the past. Maybe it worked, maybe it didn't, maybe I wouldn't be here without it. But war is always a last resort. War can never be something that you just decide you're going to do because you don't like somebody. And if you look at our world today, people use war like, they use war like it's, it's easy. We have a problem, let's create two groups and let's go to war. We'll have a gender war. We'll have the feminine war and the masculine war. We'll have a war against that religion. We'll have a war against those diseases. We'll have a war against that culture, a war against that government. And it's completely and utterly disastrous for us. The great strength of our society is our ability to solve problems. You can't solve problems with a war mentality. You can only solve problems when you get people around the table, you respect them, you give them a chance to express themselves, be creative, come up with ideas, and then you work out diplomacy and compromise and you work out a solution. That's how you solve problems. And if we can't do this, the problem will be solved for us because we won't be here on this planet anymore. It's very interesting, but one easy way to get us all to work together and down tools would be if aliens from another planet suddenly appeared who were really evil looking and wanted to take our planet and kill us all. Everyone would down tools tomorrow. The Ukrainians, the Chinese, the Americans, the Russians would all down tools and just all work together. They'd just go, right, they wouldn't even think twice. All the problems they have. Joining NATO, not joining NATO. Taiwan. Israel and its sort of precious, desire to have its state and the Gaza and the people of Gaza and the Palestinians and all their problems trying to assert themselves and have the freedoms they want. They'd all just go, we're all going to work together now because these aliens need to be sorted. And once those aliens were sorted, they'd just go back to fighting each other again. We all know this in our hearts. We've got to transcend this tribal nature that we have and move from that survival mode into thrive mode. That's really what we've got to do. And we need a certain amount of survival mode. The world can be a difficult place, natural disasters and people, dark forces and problems and so on. Just the general problems of life. But really, our focus has to be much more on thriving than surviving because we've learned so much about how we can survive. There's no question that if we really wanted to in the West, no one would ever have to suffer when it came to health or food or heating. I see every day here in the UK situations where people just cannot even afford to heat their homes. And they're boasting about having to wear their several coats or things they're doing to basically, minimize the heating bill. I've had experiences with the dentistry. The amount of people who just are struggling to get dentistry care and the cost and the queues and the waiting lists. Housing and affordable housing and, mortgages. All things that are really basic things. The cost of food going up rapidly. All these things, these basic things, we can achieve easily a situation, a scenario where we can all have these basics of life quite simply. So what are we doing here? It's a bit kind of madness that all of the amazing developments and technologies we've had over the last few decades that have given us such gifts to transform our world somehow they're just not sitting right. And we're so focused on survival that the most important thing is to spend loads of money on military and wars. Look at the US. The people of the US have no interest, in my view. I haven't met many, I've met a few, but from what I've heard and seen, I'm pretty sure, first of all, the people of the US are great people, inventive, creative, huge diverse cultures from all over the world. I'm sure that they really don't want to be involved in wars in countries they don't even know the names of. I'm sure they don't want half their taxes spent on weaponry. I'm sure they want a decent healthcare system, decent rail system, decent medical care, holiday care, all this kind of stuff. So we're in a really strange and quite silly situation here. And so I just wanted to assert that I have no axe to grind with anybody. I'm not trying to vent anything. I'm not trying to make the case to say they're wrong and this group is right and that group is wrong. It's never going to work. I'm also a technical guy. So I like to look at problems from a technical point of view and an evidence point of view. I've been a product designer in lots of companies for years, and you don't design, modify, or change or improve products by turning around and saying, I'm going to go to war with somebody in the department, or having loads of conversations that go nowhere. You look at the problem, you gather people around, and then you go, okay, I can figure something. You do testing and you figure things out and you bring people together and then you get a product. And you get a solution. It's pretty obvious. And then, we have to ask ourselves at the end of the day, all this talking and all this tribalism that's going on, do we really think that in 6 months' time, life is going to be better and it's all going to be working out and great? That's not the way it's going at the moment. What we're doing is not working as it should. In a society where we should be able to do some incredible, incredible things. So one update is on the International Court for Justice and their interim deliberation on the case brought by South Africa accusing Israel of genocide. And you'll see in the video that I put up, and I will link here again, I put the cases for full streamed cases for both Israel and South Africa on there. And basically, the court judged as a plausible case for them to go ahead and investigate if there is a genocide, a case of, reasonable case of genocide. And that was voted 15 of the judges to 2. That's a bit of a surprise because all those judges basically are very connected to their countries, and, to put themselves out and vote in that way probably was a bit brave of them. And I think it shows how, to be honest, how convincing the case was from South Africa. It doesn't say that Israel is guilty of anything. It's just saying, yes, we should investigate this. But also it's asserting to Israel what it should not do, the things it should not do in Gaza, which would be deemed to be genocide. In reality as well with this, it is a pantomime because unfortunately, the way that whole system has been configured, the UN has very, very little power to implement or enforce anything. And some experts have said it could take 10 years before a decision is made. But also, I have very little confidence that even if a decision was made, with the ability of countries to veto and the politics of things, really nothing would happen. And fundamentally, you have to ask yourself, if somebody did a dastardly deed in your community, they robbed or stole, they killed somebody, they'd have to go to court, and the court would deliberate, and they would either go to prison or not. You're talking about potentially the deaths of tens of thousands of children and mothers here. How can we have such a shoddy, weak process for things like this? And what it really does is it calls out our political system. Because, do unto others as you do unto yourself. Lead by example. The example of these systems and processes, it's coming to the surface that they really have no teeth. But I really admire the South Africans for what they've done. I think it's amazing. They have taken the system and said, well, let's use the system. But also what they've done is they've highlighted the shoddiness of the whole process, really. And they've also given us the opportunity to have a way to pretty directly see and hear arguments from, legal people on both sides, and evidence, as opposed to just listening to reporters who are biased with media channels and all that sort of stuff. So really a great opportunity to see the evidence from one side, the evidence from the other, and then for us to be judges. Really, we, the public, are the judges, and how we judge is we vote. So that's different, and that's, I think, been a gift for us and a gift for me. And so I will also post the full version of the judges' deliberations on that, so you can see it. And then, of course, when you see my video, you can say, okay, that's helped me even more now to write to my MP, to write to my Member of Parliament, whatever electoral system you have. Easy to do. Remembering, like I said earlier on, we are just ants, and you're right, I'm just one person. What difference is it going to make? If we all do this, it will make a tremendous difference. So I'll put that link on there for you as well, and you can see that outcome from that case. The second thing I want to talk about is the tragedy that is unfolding. 3 US soldiers killed in Jordan, 34 soldiers injured. And the accusation from the US is that it's Iran-backed terrorists who are responsible for this. President Biden says, and I quote, "We will hold all those responsible to account in a time and manner of our choosing." Well, first of all, we're all love and we're all peace. And if that's the case, the deaths of anyone, the deaths of Russian young men in Russia, young men in Ukraine, hundreds of thousands in terrible ways, shot, killed, blown up. The deaths of young, brave American men who are just doing the right thing for their country and serving. The injuries that are probably quite severe to the rest of those soldiers. The deaths of Israeli civilians, women and children and mothers, and the shock and tragedy of what happened to them. And the deaths of thousands and thousands of innocent civilians in Gaza. They're all our brothers and sisters, all of them. The problem is that that's not how a lot of the political leadership in our world sees this. And it's so obvious. If you look at the efforts that are going on now in the US with the political representatives in government and Republican, Democratic parties, especially Republican, they're warmongers. And they're focusing directly on Iran. They're Iran-backed terrorists. These guys might get support from Iran. It doesn't mean that they actually do Iran's bidding. So the problem we've got now is that the deaths of 3 soldiers and the injuries to 30-odd, 34-odd of others seem to be way more important than the deaths of so many thousands of people, especially in Gaza. And the hypocrisy of it all is just, it's jaw-dropping. And despite the fact that if you look on media, brave people are now walking into Democratic Party conventions and various events and standing up and saying, stop the genocide. They're getting thrown out of these venues. The party political sort of groupings around them are shouting, Biden, Biden, 4 more years. I mean, shame on these people, really. And so if we have an evolving consciousness, we will care deeply about all of these people. Not just a few. Tribal. They're American soldiers. These people in Gaza. Who are they? They're not us. They're not related to us. We're dehumanizing other groups. And so I think it's really important to just be aware of this, and the consequences. What are the consequences here? They're so serious. If politicians, senior politicians in the US, convinced the public that nasty terrorists who are sort of Iran is to blame for these guys, have killed these soldiers, and we should sort of take an action on them, you could start very easily, you could spark a regional war. And let's be honest here. Do the American people want to send hundreds of thousands of troops all the way to Iran to fight the Iranians? Oh, I know what they could do. They could do like they did in Iraq. They could bomb them all from the sky. The problem with that is, when you bomb from the sky, you hit loads of civilians and you kill loads of innocent people. So if America wants to trash its reputation even more, because people are taking footage and videos of what's happening because these bombs are landing all over the place, then good luck with that. America will become seen as the most despotic country in the world. So if they go in with a few 100,000 soldiers, what are they going to do? They're going to have to fight hand to hand like in Ukraine. They're going to suffer heavy losses. And then they're going to have to stay in the country for like 10 years maybe, like happened in Iraq. And you see how that went? But also, that's a regional war. Regional? We know that 90% plus of Iran's oil goes to China. We know that Iran was starting to normalize relations with Saudi Arabia. We know that the Russians are keen to develop links with the Iranians. We know that Syria has great links with Russia. So very quickly, if the US decides to go in any way to Iran or to do anything to Iran, they're literally starting to set the scene for a war that could involve major powers and could evolve into a war where the so-called global south is now sparring up to the global west. And that, who knows what happens? Well, for starters, huge economic issues. Economic crash, recession, constraints on travel, horrendous, things going on, people getting killed and murdered and bombed in various places, terrorism going through the roof, and the potential to escalate to a desperate regional war where hundreds of thousands of people are killed, or worse, that some person, unhinged, really upset, suffering massive trauma, presses the red button and starts a nuclear war. So really, really, really serious, potentially serious problem here. And this is where really we're all being tested. We're being tested here. Grow, flower, evolve your consciousness. Realize that we're all one. Respect each other. Work to find a diplomatic solution. Realize that the world is no longer this big multiple tribes all basically having a go at each other to try and take each other's resources and succeed. It's not like that anymore. It's a test for us. It's in many ways, it's a test for us to really truly survive in a new world that needs us to thrive. The other thing is that I think it's really important when you're actually trying to find out the sort of scoring for relative truth, that you're careful not to listen to indirect stuff. So, for example, where a news reporter starts telling you about somebody or starts reporting on somebody or sets up a conversation where they're basically they've pre-designed the questions to ask somebody, or they're acting in a very angry, moralistic way. the best way to really find out about somebody is to just listen to them speaking. If you want to find out truly what Biden really thinks, just listen to an interview with him. There'll be lots of interviews on YouTube and other places. Listen to an interview with Putin. Listen to an interview with the Chinese premier. Listen to an interview with Zelensky. All these people. And you'll start to find out a bit more about where they're really coming from. And it won't be a case of that's an evil one and that's a good one. These narratives that are now being used, you'll see situations where they take leaders and they have a picture and they put Hitler on one side and the leader on the other. And subliminally, they're trying to get us to believe that this person is a Hitler or whatever. None of them are. And also understanding that if I was brought up in the shoes of Netanyahu, I was born into his world, I was born into his religion, I was born into the pain bodies and the traumas that generations of people have had, and their desire to have their lands and have their culture, have their religion. And I got into the political system and I had to do deals with highly conservative people to get into power. And then some dastardly acts occurred. There was a huge shock. Would I lash out and do terrible things to other people? I can't say I wouldn't, and no one can. And it's the same for all these groups of people who've got these traumas. We cannot judge them, and we don't need to judge them. What we can do is try to find solutions to the problems, and the problems are that people are dying, people are being killed, people are being hurt. That's the problem. And that it's no good for us as a society and as a world. And it threatens our survival in many ways. So that's the really important part of this. And so people talk about the Houthis. Who are the Houthis? I mean, the Houthis have just suddenly appeared in Western media. And a lot of this is about, the Houthis are these terrorist guys who are trying to disrupt shipping in the Red Sea. But then there are other stories about the Houthis who are really, they've had a lot of troubles in their country. There's been wars going on forever. And they claim that they are trying to basically stop various ships from going to Israel until Israel stops the killing of people in Gaza, has a ceasefire. So there's a complex story with the Houthis. They're not just mindless, evil terrorists. No, none of these people ever are. So what interests me is to find out who are they. So I had a little look and I found an interview with the Houthi, one of the Houthi leaders. I've posted it here. So you can listen directly to this guy and just decide for yourself what you think. Is he a completely crazy guy? Are they really these mad people who are just trying to stop your delivery of your goods to your country, make it difficult for you and increase prices? Just kill Americans on ships and all that sort of stuff, disrupt trade. Are they really like that, or is there something else going on here? And I think it's really worthwhile having a look and listen to that interview if you can. And so that really covers pretty much everything I wanted to say. I think it's probably, there's never been a time where we should be mindful and really engaged with what's going on in the world, because I think we're going to see serious confrontations in this world in the future if we're not careful, and the whole issue around the change from America being the dominant peacekeeper, dominant power with lots of countries, European countries and others underneath its wing and it protecting them, being the leading technology country in the world and the leading military power, that's coming to an end. And for good or for bad, because there's lots of good with that, and we can see that there's probably some bad as well, it has to change. And we have to become a multipolar world. Global politics has to become multipolar, where literally people sit around the table, leaders sit around the table, and work to solve problems, throw away all the moralistic arguments and trying to demonize each other and say, okay, We may not like each other, we may not get on, we may disagree about the way we do things, but we have to come to some arrangement here so we can actually live together in the world, and we realize we're all interdependent. And I think that's a really important thing. And if we, me and anybody else, in our small way, can send that message to our political system, well, even if it doesn't succeed, even if it doesn't work, we still made an effort. You know, when the world is, you know, trashed in a couple of generations, and there's nothing left, and your children sort of walk up to you and say, "What did you do?" And you say, "Well, I couldn't do anything. It was a waste of time. No point." You could say, "I tried. I did something. It wasn't difficult to do. It was fairly easy. I made an effort. I put myself out there. I put my hand up. I voted. I sent a message. I told other people. I saw this guy, this sort of crazy Irish guy, who was trying to explain things. I listened to some of what he was saying. I agreed with some of it. I disagreed with some of it. But in many areas, I liked what he was saying. So I went and did some of the things he suggested, and I shared his videos, and I liked his videos, and I subscribed. And in the end, none of it mattered because it didn't work. But we made an effort. So I did try. So no matter what happens here, we can make an impact. And I'm very confident, and I've been in the political system. I've been on the other side of the curtain, and I've seen how it's just a guy pulling all the levers, and how easy it is, really, for us as growing consciously aware beings, beautiful beings, peaceful beings, creative beings, articulate, intelligent beings, when we have the information, when we have advice, when we get the wisdom from others, when we feel that there's an opportunity to make change, that we can make incredible change. We can do incredible things, and we can make an enormous difference to the absolutely insane, silly, dark, very ignorant actions that are being, these wars and these crazy conflicts that are starting to play out in the world. We can make a huge difference to those and make a really positive difference. So make sure to like, subscribe, share my videos, write to your Member of Parliament, watch these critical videos that I'm going to link here, and then watch another one of my videos, comment, criticize, call me out where you can, because I will learn from that. So thank you, and look forward to seeing you with my next video. Take care.